Hello viewers, welcome back to my channel after দেখছেন Cybertalk YouTube চ্যানেল। সাথে আছি আমি আপনাদের হোস্ট। তো আজকে আমরা কথা বলবো কার ইন্স্যুরেন্স নিয়ে। হাউ মাচ কার ইন্স্যুরেন্স ডু ইউ নিড? ইনভেস্টোপিডিয়া ওয়েবসাইটের ব্লগ আমরা আজকে এক্সপ্লেন করার চেষ্টা করব। ব্লগটি লিখেছেন জব, রিভিউড বাই এরিক। So how much car insurance do you need? The answer depends on a number of factors including where you live, how much your car worth, and what other asset you need to protect. Here's what you need to know. The key takeaways, most state requires you have at least a minimum amount of insurance coverage for any injuries or property damage you face caused in an accident. Collision coverage, which is optional, covers damage on your own car and accident. Comprehensive coverage, also optional, protects against other risks such as theft or fire. Uninsured motorist coverage, mandatory in some states, protects you if you are hit by a driver who does not have insurance. So how the car insurance works? An automobile insurance policy is actually a package of several different types of insurance. The most common ones are bodily injury liability, property damage liability, medical payments or personal protection, collision coverage, comprehensive coverage, uninsured, underinsured, motorist coverage. Depending on the state you live in, some of these coverage may be mandatory, others optional. If you have an auto loan or lease, your lender may also have certain requirements, but beyond what your state or lender requires, you may want to purchase additional insurance to protect yourself. Here's a close look at each type of coverage and how to decide how much you really need. Bodily injury liability. What is covered? Bodily injury liability is the part of a car insurance policy that will pay for injuries you or your family member who are listed on your policy cause to someone else in an accident auto. So how much you need? Virtually every state requires drivers to purchase bodily injury liability coverage, although the amount varies from state to state on an auto insurance policy. Your liability coverage is typically expressed as a series of the three numbers such as 255020. The first number represents the maximum you insured will pay per person if you injure someone in an accident, $25,000 in an example. The second number is the maximum it will pay per accident in case more than one person is injured, $50,000 in the case. The third number refers to property damage liability. You will need to purchase at least the minimum amount of bodily injury coverage your state requires. For many states, that's $25,000 per person and $50,000 per person accident. Also, some states are lower to or higher. Your state's minimum requirements might not be enough. However, especially if you are involved in a serious accident, you will need to consider your asset and whether they have adequately protected in the event of a lawsuit. For example, if you own your home or have a substantial amount of substantial amount of money in savings, a costly accident could put them at risk. In that case, you will want to buy more coverage. The non-profit consumer checkbook, amongst others, recommended buying coverage of at least 100, 350 just in case. The difference in cost The difference in cost between that coverage and your state's minimum will probably not be very much. You can buy even more coverage than that to 2050, 500 and 100. Say, if you have more assets to protect, you can also purchase an umbrella policy, which will raise both your auto and home insurance liability coverage to $1 million or more. Property damage liability. So what is cover? Property damage liability covers the cost when you or member or your family damage another person's car or other property, such as a tree or fence, in an accident. How much you need? As with the bodily injury liability, virtually every state requires you to have some amount of property damage coverage. It is represented on your policy as the third number in that sequence. So a 25, 50, 20 policy would provide 20,000 in coverage. Some states requires you to have as little as 10,000 or even 5,000 in property damage liability coverage. But 200 or 2,000 to 25,000 minimum are most common. Again, you may want to buy more coverage than your state's minimum, but unless you find yourself in a collision with a Lamborghini or Rolls-Royce, you probably don't face as much financial risk as you would in an accident in which people seriously injured. A commonly recommended level of property damage coverage is $50,000 or more if you have substantial assets to protect. So the medical payments, mid-pay or personal injury protection, PIP. What is covered? Unlike bodily insurance liability coverage, medical payments, mid-pay, personal injury protection, PIP, covers the cost of insurance to the driver and any passenger in your car. In some cases, it will also cover any lost wages resulting from injuries sustained in an accident. How much you need, whether medical payments or PIP coverage is mandatory, optional, or even available will depend on your state. In a state with no fault insurance law such as Florida and New York, PIP coverage is mandatory. In Florida, for example, driver must carry at least $10,000. In New York, the maximum is $50,000. If you and your family member already have good health insurance, you may not need to buy more than a required minimum of PIP coverage. If you don't have health insurance, however, you might want to purchase more. That is especially true in the states like Florida, where $10,000 in coverage could be indicated if you are in a serious accident. Collision coverage will pay to repair or replace your car if you are involved in an accident with another car or hit someone's other objects. So the collision coverage. Collision coverage will pay to repair or replace your car if you are involved in an accident with other car or hit some other object. How much you need? States does not require driver to have collision coverage. However, if you have an auto loan or are leasing the car, your lender may require when you are paid off of your loan or returned your leased car, you can drop the coverage. Even if it's not required, you may want to buy collision coverage. For example, if you did have trouble paying a big repair bill or out of pocket after an accident, collision coverage could be good to have. You will have want to consider what your car is worth. The price of collision coverage is based on the value of your car and typically comes with a deductible of $2,250 to $100. So if your car would cost $20,000 or to replace, you did pay first $250 to $1,000. Depending on the deductible you choose when you bought your policy, and the insurer would be responsible for as much as $19,000 to $19,750 after that as your car's value. Depreciate over time. After your car's value depreciates over time, however, you may want to consider dropping collision coverage between the cost of your annual premiums and the deductible you have to pay out of pocket after an accident. You could be paying a lot of very little coverage. Even insurance companies will tell you that dropping collision coverage makes sense when your car worth less than a few $1,000s. The comprehensive coverage. What is cover? Comprehensive cover damage to your car, something other than the collision. That might be, for example, a fire, flood, or falling tree. It also covers car theft. How much you need? As with the comprehensive coverage, state does not require you have to collision coverage, but if you have an auto loan or lease, your lender may require. And again, deciding whether to buy comprehensive coverage. If it doesn't require, do you want to weigh your ability to pay out pocket if you are stolen? If your car is stolen and you have to buy new on or damage, you are stuck with the repairs bill. Uninsured motorist coverage. Just because the state's law requires drivers to have a liability coverage, that doesn't mean every driver does. As of 2019, an estimated of 12.6% of drivers, are about 1 in 8, were uninsured. Many other drivers have some insurance, but not enough to cover the cost of serious accident. That's where this type of coverage comes in. It can cover you and your family member if you're injured or your car is damaged by uninsured or the hit and run driver. Some states requires driver to carry uninsured motorist coverage. Some also requires underinsured motorist coverage. Maryland, for example, requires driver to carry uninsured motorist bodily injury liability insurance of the last $30,000 per person and $60,000 per person accident. It also requires at least $50,000 in uninsured motorist property damage covered. The bottom line, an auto insurance policy is made up of multiple type of coverage, some of which is which are requirement. তো ইনভেস্টোপিডিয়ার ওয়েবসাইটটি ভিজিট করলে কিন্তু আপনারা এই ব্যাপারটাতে আরও ভালো জেনে নিতে পারবেন। চ্যানেলটি সাবস্ক্রাইব করা না থাকলে চ্যানেলটি সাবস্ক্রাইব করে পাশে থাকা বেল আইকনটি ক্লিক করে দিতে পারেন। আর সবাইকে ধন্যবাদ অসংখ্য ভিডিওটি দেখার জন্য।